There is a mountain in Utah that watches over the city of Provo like a silent guardian. To the students of Brigham Young University, Y Mountain is a landmark for hiking and tradition. But hidden on its rugged slopes is a secret that was never meant to be a tourist attraction. It is a place the locals whispered about, a cramped, flooded labyrinth nicknamed the Cave of Death. In August of 2005, 5 young adults decided to test the legend. They were in the prime of their lives, driven by that specific brand of invincibility that only comes with youth. They had no idea that within hours, the cave would live up to its name, leaving only one of them to tell the story. This is the harrowing, step-by-step breakdown of the Gollum Cave tragedy. The story begins on Wednesday, August 17th. It was a typical summer night for a group of friends. Jennifer Gilbraith, Blake Donner, Scott McDonald, Ariel Singer, and Joseph Ferguson had gone out for dinner, enjoying the easy camaraderie of a midweek hangout. As the night stretched into the early morning hours, the conversation turned to the secret cave. Gollum's cave wasn't a secret in the way a buried treasure is. It had been fully surveyed by cavers just a year prior. But to the average hiker, it was a mystery. It wasn't a place for the faint of heart. At first glance, the entrance is miserable, a 4-foot-tall opening choked with a foot of stagnant water. To even get to the real cave, you have to crouch walk for nearly 100 feet through a shallow, freezing stream. For most, that's enough to turn back. But the allure of Gollum's cave wasn't the entrance tunnel. It was what lay at the very end, a secret inner chamber. To reach it, you had to perform an act that defies human instinct. You had to lower yourself into an 18 by 24-inch hole in the ground, a passage no bigger than a refrigerator door, and swim through a completely submerged tunnel to the other side. By 2 a.m., the group reached the mountain. They sat outside for a while, perhaps soaking in the last of the dry summer air. Jennifer Gilbraith was the leader of this expedition. She was the only one who had been inside the secret chamber before. She reassured her friends, telling them it was a simple 15-foot swim. You just hold your breath, kick a few times, and you're in a private, hidden world. But Jennifer omitted a terrifying detail from her previous trip. During her last visit, the environment had been so taxing that she had become hypothermic and actually passed out. Despite that brush with death, the excitement of showing her friends this forbidden place overrode her caution. Blake, Scott, and Ariel were convinced. Joseph Ferguson, however, felt a twinge of hesitation. He decided that he would stay at the entrance of the watery hole and wait for them to return. It was a choice that would save his life. At 4:30 a.m., under the cover of a pitch-black Utah night, the 4 friends entered the cave. They had only a single flashlight between them. One by one, they reached the small opening in the floor. The water was bone-chillingly cold. Jennifer went first. She slid into the narrow passage, her head disappearing beneath the surface. A few small ripples followed, and then silence. The tunnel was a tight fit, roughly 2 feet wide and 4 feet high. There was a rope tied to a rock in the main cave that ran through the submerged tunnel and anchored to a piece of wood in the inner chamber. In theory, this was a safety line. In reality, in a space that small, it was almost impossible to lose your way, or so they thought. One by one, Blake, Scott, and Ariel dropped into the hole and followed Jennifer into the dark. They made it. All 4 reached the inner chamber, a small pocket of air roughly 15 feet away from the entrance. The chamber allowed them to stand, with the ceiling peaking at about 9 feet, leaving roughly 3 feet of airspace above the water's surface. Outside, Joseph waited. Minutes turned into an hour. He wasn't sure what the normal stay time was for a secret cave. By 5:30 a.m., the silence from the hole became deafening. He waded into the entrance tunnel and looked at the water-filled opening. There was no light, no sound, no bubbles. Joseph didn't panic immediately. He called a few friends who knew the cave, hoping for reassurance. But by 6:25 a.m., the dread became too much to bear. He called the police. What happened inside that chamber while Joseph waited? To understand the tragedy, we have to look at the chemistry of the air. In caving, explorers fear bad air. This refers to any atmosphere that deviates from the standard composition of 21% oxygen and 79% nitrogen. In a stagnant limestone cave like Gollum's, the air is a trap. Carbon dioxide is heavier than oxygen. Because the inner chamber was a dead end with no airflow, the CO2 settled right at the water's surface, exactly where the four friends were treading water and breathing. The buildup was a perfect storm of three factors. First, limestone erosion. CO2 naturally seeps from limestone and decaying plant matter. Second, human respiration. 4 people breathing in a small enclosed space rapidly depletes oxygen and replaces it with carbon dioxide. And third, candles. Rescuers later found evidence of candles burned inside. Every flame consumes the very oxygen the humans need to survive. The symptoms of carbon dioxide poisoning are insidious. You don't feel like you're suffocating at first. Instead, you experience a diminished capacity. Your heart rate spikes, your breathing doubles or triples in frequency, and, most dangerously, your ability to think critically evaporates. As the group realized they couldn't breathe, panic likely set in. They had to get out, but the exit was a one-at-a-time hole. Jennifer, being the most experienced, went first. Under normal conditions, a 15-foot swim is easy, but Jennifer was likely breathing air with an oxygen level near 10%. At that level, a human has about 60 seconds of consciousness while holding their breath. If she missed the exit hole by even a few inches, she was in trouble. This is the overshot phenomenon. A previous explorer, Brian Lamprey, described hitting a dead end just 4 feet past the exit hole. In the dark, if you miss the hole, you hit a wall of rock. You feel upwards, clawing at the ceiling, but there is no air. Jennifer likely spent those precious 60 seconds searching for the opening before losing consciousness in the narrow tunnel. Behind her, Ariel Singer would have been next. In the inner cave, the air was getting worse by the second. Her respiration would have been ragged. She dove in, desperate for a breath of fresh air on the other side. Halfway through the 15-foot tunnel, she would have collided with Jennifer's limp body. In a tunnel only 2 feet wide, there is no passing, there is no bowing around. Ariel was trapped in the dark, underwater, blocked by her unconscious friend. Panic would have been absolute. Then came Blake. Then came Scott, each one diving into the tunnel, each one encountering a mounting pile of bodies. The effects of the carbon dioxide meant they weren't thinking, "I should go back to the air pocket." Their brains were screaming, "Forward, exit, air." They stacked up like a tragic human logjam, just feet away from safety. When authorities arrived, they knew they couldn't just dive in. The air was too dangerous. They spent hours pumping fresh oxygen into the cave and using high-powered pumps to lower the water level. They needed to create an airspace in that 15-foot tunnel so rescuers could breathe. As the water receded, they found Jennifer first, floating just inside the tunnel entrance. An hour later, they found Ariel, Blake, and Scott. All 4 were facing the exit. They had fought until their very last heartbeats to reach the light. Autopsies confirmed the cause of death for all 4 was drowning. But the true killer wasn't the water. It was the air that had betrayed them before they ever dove back in. Jennifer, 28. Blake, 24. Scott, 28. Ariel, 18. 4 healthy, adventurous people in the prime of their lives, lost in a span of just 15 feet. Shortly after the recovery, the city of Provo took a final, decisive action. They hauled loads of concrete up the side of Yai Mountain and filled the entrance of Gollum's cave, sealing it forever. The Cave of Death is now a tomb, a silent reminder that sometimes the most dangerous things in this world are the ones we cannot see.